this video, we're going to show you how to change the settings in a Classpad.net paper and also within each sticky. So the paper, this is the general paper overall, and anytime you see the three dots, and that's pretty much true in the stickies or in the paper in general, is where you're going to find the settings. So right now I'm in the general paper where I haven't actually done anything yet, but I can go up to the three dots that are here in the right corner, and this is where I can change the math settings. So if I click that, you can see I can change the way the numbers are formatted, what kind of angles I might have. So this is going to change the paper overall. If I want to use complex numbers, that's where this resides. Whether I want my answers to only be decimals, or they can also be standard. So here's the math settings that control the paper. And also in the three dots, again, this is, you can change if you're going to use the financial app, the sticky. This changes the how many days in the year, the period, so any of the financial templates that you might use. This is where you can change them ahead of time, but you can also change them within the sticky itself. So general sticky, overall paper, this is where you would do the settings, where you're going to share, where you can add tags, where you can add a description. Then within each sticky, so remember each of these is a sticky. So I have a calculate sticky, and I'm just going to pull one up of each so that you can see them. A calculate sticky, a graph sticky, a geometry sticky, and let's just walk through those first. Each sticky in a sense is its own little but its own little content. So you can change settings within each one of these as well. So if I'm in the calculate sticky and I click the three dots, so always three dots, the only thing I can really change about the calculate sticky is the color of it. And if you hit gray, it changes to gray. And the reason is because that's controlled by the math settings from the paper. If I want to change the settings in a graph sticky, and each graph sticky would be considered separate, so I could have one graph sticky have certain settings and then make a new one and have different settings. But again, three dots, usually found at the top right-hand side of a sticky. And here's the things I can change within a graph. Whether I want the axes on, whether I want numbers on, whether I want the grid on or off. I can manually change the domain and range, the X and Y values. I can change whether, if I'm doing inequalities, whether I want the union or the intersection. So again, settings, three dots in any sticky. So here I am in the geometry, and again, three dots up to the right-hand corner, and there's lots of things you can change in geometry. There's many, many different grids, so you can turn the grids on or off. You can do a dot grid, an isometric grid, a minor grid, a diagonal grid. You can put axes so that it looks very much like a graphing. Again, because it's very similar, if you turn on the axes, then you can change the scale as well. You can turn on snap or fixed points. That means if you have a grid, they'll snap to the grids very nicely. So lots of things you can change within a geometry sticky as well, whether you want the points to auto-label or not. So again, three dots, change the sticky. The one difference in geometry is once you change something, you want to make sure you hit OK to set it. You don't have to do that in any of the other stickies, but because of geometry and the way it has so many different options, you want to hit OK to verify that that's what you want to do. So let's scroll down a little bit more and get some other stickies out here. So we've already gone through the first three. Let's pull out a data sticky, the sequence sticky, the finance sticky, and finally a text sticky. So basically each sticky is its own little individual activity section, if you want to think of it that way, and they have their own settings. So here's what you can do when you are in the sticky of the data. So I again go to three dots, and all I can really do is change the color right now. But if I select a column, you'll see that now I get some extra settings. I can lock the numbers that are in the column, or I can hide that column for use later. So once you have things in, you can add a couple more settings. But again, three dots give you more. If I go to the sequence and I go to settings, I can choose to be recursive or explicit. I can choose the type of recursive or explicit I want, and that changes what happens here. So those are the settings for sequences. Financial, remember, we could also change them up here in the overall page setting, but I can also, if I go to settings here, it doesn't look like I can do much, but then if I choose one of the templates, so let's just use compound interest. It creates a separate sticky template, And now that template has settings specific to it. So here I can change the end of the period to the beginning of the period. I can modify that. So there's lots of little mini templates within. And again, 3 dots are the setting. Finally, here's the text sticky. And for the text sticky, the main thing that you can change is the color. And that's nice if you're working with students and your directions are always blue and their answers are always in the yellow, those types of things. So those are the settings that you can change there. If you want to change font style, that's down here. That's not style, font size, that's here. And then math type brings up the keyboard. So that's basically it for settings within the whole paper. So overall paper settings, and each sticky then gets its own setting, and you can change them as you wish. And each time you pull up a new one, you can change that new one to be something different.